This is going to be Underbog as a Blood Death Knight. The complicated method I use for determining when to show what has decided that I show this one today. So that's what's happening. Folly here had one of the better runs here, so she's the one who does this. Right, so Underbog. Okay, so I saw Warrior, Hunter, something and something. Oh no, I have a visible cloak. That's not how I like it. Guess I hadn't gotten to a transmogrifier recently. That's fine. Yeah, so Blood Death Knight. Pretty comfortable and simple. Not quite as much so on both of those as Protection Paladin, but feels honestly pretty similar. They remind me of each other. Not much different from the last run you saw with this character. So something I noticed, again, I've been trying to synchronize all my characters right at the same level, which at the moment happens to be right around 70. Something that I noticed as I got my healers up to that level is there's a significant shift right around level 60 where tank queue times are the instant ones all the way through Classic. You know, if you say, I'm ready to enter this dungeon in the tank role, the dungeon finder will almost always instantly pop up and say, your dungeon is ready. If you do it as a healer, you might be waiting like 3 minutes. As a damage dealer, you wait like 10 minutes. Depends on time of day, depends just who else is playing then. Right around level 60 that shifts. The healers are the ones who get instant queues then, and tanks have to wait like 2 minutes. Presumably that's because of the influx of Death Knights who start at level 58. Well, non-allied races start at level 55, but they have to do a bunch of quests before they can leave Acarus and actually use the Dungeon Finder, which puts them at about 58. So anyway, yeah, so all the Death Knights queuing as tanks upset the ratio right around there. So playing a healer is the way to go for instant Dungeon Finder queues, right about then. Oh right, this is the Sanguine Hibiscus dungeon. This character happens to be an herbalist, so she can see on the minimap where all the hibiscuses are. Something I've taken to doing with those, since I'm running so many characters through the same dungeons, is when one person goes through Underbog, well, I'm more or less done with Underbog now, but what I was doing was, when one person goes through Underbog, if they end up with any excess Sanguine Hibiscuses, I'll mail those to the next character who's going to be running the dungeon. And sometimes I have so many extras that I can just turn in that quest as soon as I pick it up and not worry about it for the rest of the dungeon. And, you know, fill my Sanguine Hibiscus buffer for the next character who runs through here. Because enemies will just drop them like that. And sometimes I don't have to pick a single one off the ground to get enough. So I can just leave them there for other party members to fight over. Oh man. Quest items like this are just so funny to watch. Like, the extreme competition that everybody feels the need to partake in. You know, they'll use all of their movement increasing abilities to get to... Sanguine Hibiscus not so much. Oh right, this Underbat here is buggy. Stays in place and evades attacks. Can't easily be targeted unless I'm standing in the perfect spots. I guess I'm standing in the perfect spot here, so I'm not moving at all. But yeah, that one's like a little bit embedded in the ground. The game says, oh, it's unreachable, therefore it's going to reset. But if you stand in the right place, it counts as reachable. I don't know. Weird stuff, just have to deal with. That's the way the game is. Yeah, so Utgard Keep is pretty funny for this, for the Vrykul weapons. I had to see such fierce competition to be the first to get to the Vrykul weaponry that's scattered all over the dungeon. There are plenty of them. You easily walk by more than 25 of them. Hungerfen is already involved in this battle here. Got some enthusiastic people who are possibly going ahead and pulling extra things into combat. In this case, I didn't mind this at all. They seem to have the skills to back it up, as long as, you know, as long as the extra stuff gets pulled to my location and the healer's not overwhelmed and, you know, damage dealers aren't getting themselves killed or anything, that's fine. You can pull extra stuff. Death Knights don't get a lot of mobility, so I can't just like zoom around like a warrior or, well, like a warrior to pick up everything in the room. Right, those Underbog mushrooms. I finally figured out what they do. They grow for a little while and then detonate, and I believe they apply a real nasty poison to anybody who's standing right next to them. You don't need to fight that bog giant, but I guess I'm gonna. Okay, fair enough. I want everything in my Death and Decay, but it's all the way over here. Alright, as enthusiastic as this group is, I see how low my health is, so I'm not going to pull that other bog giant just yet. Yeah, so anyway, every time I run Utgard Keep now, I just, like, laugh at everybody competing over the Vrykul weaponry, and, you know, I wait for the first 20 to be collected, since you need 5 each, and I get the last 5 nice and comfortable when nobody can collect them anymore because they've all fought over the early ones. Sanguine Hibiscus is a lot harder to see in here, so I think that's part of the reason people aren't quite so gung-ho about charging in and grabbing it so quick. But the Vrykul weaponry is very obvious. Serpent Bloom's like this, but also hard to see. Anyway, it's just funny. But yeah, doing hand-me-downs with excess Sanguine Hibiscus just alleviates that problem a lot. There's one. Okay, so he did Heroic Leap to it. It happens a little bit. But there weren't like 3 other people swarming onto that one trying to also get it. And being misdirected. That's a hunter ability that allows all threat generated by the hunter to go to their target. Ideally the tank. You can choose any target. You can misdirect to the healer if you want. You probably don't want. But you can. So if I hear that noise with a competent hunter, then I know, great, I get a little threat boost and the hunter doesn't risk pulling anything. With a hunter who's causing problems, then I need to think, well, okay, so who am I being tagged onto here? And what do I need to do to get them positioned properly and survive the onslaught that's coming my way? It's a very double-edged sound, that misdirection. Rogues kind of have it too. Tricks of the Trade, it's called. They get it a lot later, but same effect. Pick a target, your threat gets redirected to them, so you can run into combat, and if you are the one who initiates the combat, which occasionally is appropriate, then, you know, threat goes to the tank. If you're not, then you're sure you don't pull threat off the tank just by doing a big burst up front or anything. This group was clearly pretty competent and ready to do things. Oh man, Arcane Mage. Got an Arcane Mage in the party, so that's gonna happen. She's been pretty restrained until now, but yeah, she pulled a lot of stuff off of me right there. Hunter's reporting interrupts, that's nice. I guess, I'm not really paying attention to it, but you know, the information is there in case you want it. I found out recently that if that group is patrolling far enough back, you can actually skip them. I've never tried to intentionally, but I think I was here with another tank running this, and they walked right by those, and they did not pull threat on them. I kind of figured they'd always get onto you when you go up that ramp, but no, it's possible not to. I had 2 runs I was comparing for this dungeon. I was going to show one of them today. Death Knight's run ended up being better. The other one was on my Guardian Druid, and I looked at the time stamps, and somehow this particular group finishes this dungeon 10 minutes faster than the Druids group did. So it's so weird. She must have just had like a super low damage group, or this one had a super high damage one, or both. Because like just looking at the footage, nothing looked all that off about the other run, nothing looked all that exceptional about this one, but somehow this one finishes a full 10 minutes quicker than the other one. So a surprising amount of variance in the amount of time that a dungeon like this can take, just based on party competence. Or maybe it's that thing that I thought I was experiencing sometimes. It's probably just the group, but it really feels sometimes like the Dungeon Finder just hands me different tuning for a dungeon. You know, you queue into this dungeon, and hey, this time things have twice as much health as they did this other time when we took you to this dungeon. It's probably just the group. Just like higher and lower damage dealers, changing the amount of time things take. This Hydra walks all the way down into the water down there if it feels like it. I don't want to fight it down there, I want to fight it here. Actually, I don't really, I want to fight it up in the arena back behind me, to my left. But this is where it was, so this is where we're fighting. Is there a knockback during this fight? There might be. And I'm not standing in the most optimal place for one of those. Maybe that was why I did that little adjustment there. If there was a knockback, it didn't go off. Okay. Holy Paladin Healer. Okay, I just took notice. Those are the sounds I'm hearing. And right, yeah, the other caster back there is an Arcane Mage. Mm-hmm. Holy Paladin. Fun with a good group. Not fun with one who's causing all sorts of problems. A lot of healers are kind of like this. Disciplined Priest thrives when the group is not taking heavy damage. Mistweaver is fine with heavy damage. That's no problem. Restoration Druid, I have some trouble. I hear they're good at it, but I'm not. I saw somebody going for... what is it? Watcher Jung or something? So I'm going to let them go and get it. Did they? Earthbinder Rage. Okay, Watcher Jung is the quest giver. That's what it is. I didn't see that thing pop up on my screen, but I do see the quest completion. So I must just not have been paying attention at the right time. Ragveil, I can pick that. So I'm gonna. Herbs and ores take a lot to gather to get a meaningful amount to do anything with profession-wise, so almost all of my characters gather those two types of resources now. I have like one person with each production profession, and then the rest just gather materials and funnel them to the producers. And since almost all of my characters spend their entire lives in dungeons, that's about the only place I get herbs and ores. And yeah, it's not really sufficient. Sometimes I have to go on a journey out to the world just to get those things for something that I want to do with my production professions. But any extra little bit I can get in dungeons always helps. If I can do it without slowing down the group too much. Oh boy, at level 67 a whole lot of dungeons open up. Level 70 even more do than this. You get like your entire screen filled with all the dungeons you just unlocked. Yeah, I haven't touched any of these dungeons lately since Farron and Akira have run through them. So yeah, Mage is currently level 99, I think? She's a little ahead of where everybody else is synchronized, but I'll get her in the group at some point. Farron's still my only 120. She'll have company eventually, but I have my process. I'm getting there. There's a bog giant who often gets involved in this combat, over to my left somewhere. It doesn't seem to have glommed onto us yet. Maybe I'm far enough to the right that it doesn't... Where is that boy? There he is. He's way over there, that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, and a lot of runs through here. Usually when I'm not the one playing the tank, I see that bog giant get involved. Fellweed, I can pick that. And I'm probably gonna. Or maybe not. Yeah, I guess I don't pick that one. Fair enough. Alright, are we going to have to fight this? Yes, okay, he has a huge threat range on him, it looks like. Oh, that's probably why he gets involved, because he patrols up and down the hallway. And, yeah, big threat range, so he notices you from a long way away. Oh, there's another one. Okay. I think this is the last fight before the Black Stalker. Trying to gather the herbs on that before this one's dead. That's not going to work. Hey, I got a good herb from that. Often I just get vendor junk. But every once in a while you get something good off of a corpse. Alright, Sanguine Hibiscus for you. I'm short 1. I want to say the Black Stalker ends up dropping it for me. Yeah, so I'm watching my minimap for where they are. There's one just past him, and that's the last one that's convenient in the dungeon. I got a skull in me for a moment. Why was that? Somebody has an add-on that's like marking me for some ability I was briefly targeted with. Okay. Don't know what that was. I didn't see it, but something was happening to me that apparently an add-on decided the party needed to know about. Chain lightning. Oh, I see. Okay, so chain lightning on me, so anybody close by is also going to get chained onto. That makes sense. Oh, wow. Look at this dude just melt. Okay, yeah, this was a super high damage group. Did my Arcane Mage switch to Frost? I'm seeing Frost bolts coming out. I think she did. Huh. Okay. She was an Arcane Mage at one point, wasn't she? I thought I saw Arcane stuff earlier, but maybe I was mistaken. Yeah, there we go. Got my 5th Sanguine Hibiscus from there. So I guess Falny at this point didn't have the hand-me-downs. I think she started the... Well, no, she didn't have any extras. I think I started that tradition after this. Anyway, yeah, so good, quick run on Underbog. Solid group, high damage. Everybody knew what they were doing, and it was great. Gotta pick a mushroom that's useless. I'm just gonna sell it. They both sell for the same amount, so it doesn't matter which I choose. Alright, 20 dungeon cuts completed. Right, yeah, very behind in achievements since she's a Death Knight who starts at level 58. Doesn't have the experience from earlier. Alright, cool. Good Underbog. See you next time.